Okay, good evening and welcome to chapter 28 of The Living Marriage. As we go through this amazing book, talks about the intimacy, primarily talks about marriage and the intimacy during marriage. We're starting lesson 9. It's called Individuality and Intimacy. There's 4 parts to this lesson 9. Chapter 28 is the introduction to lesson 9. The previous 2 chapters we went away from the bedroom. We talked about a marriage outside the bedroom, what brings shalom bias and things that detract from shalom bias. Now we're going to come back into the bedroom and we're going to talk about um, the 4 parts. The introduction, number 2 is the wife's rishus, the husband's rishus, and other considerations. Basically, the needs and the wants of the woman, the needs and the wants of the husband, and other things that take into effect because, as we'll see in the introduction, he says, proper judgment and intimacy. Life in this world, this is how we start the chapter, calls on every person to make proper decisions. People are forced to use their own judgment, and they're given the flexibility to do things the way that seems best to them. Man's actions can be broken down to 3 distinct groups. Number 1, forbidden actions, such as the negative prohibitions of the Torah. Number 2, obligatory actions, such as the positive commandments of the Torah. And number 3, actions that are permitted to be performed at one's own discretion. These actions are called rishus. They have been placed in a person's jurisdiction. Decide whether they are fitting. Okay, so we're introducing an idea that's fundamental not just to intimacy in marriage, not just to marriage, not just to Judaism, but a foundation of the entire world, that uh, human beings were created to make decisions. That's what we were given free will for, whether you're Jewish or not Jewish. It also doesn't say this, but I'm telling you the truth. Whether you're Jewish or you're not Jewish, it doesn't make a difference, right? You're born with the same ability, whether you're born Jewish or not Jewish. We're ultimately judged after 120 years based on our decision making, and that's called bechira chafshis, called free will. Everyone recognizes that it's a basic human element that we all have, that we all share, all human beings share. Whether animals share that or not, I have no idea, but human beings do share this, something everyone can relate to. Making decisions, it's maybe the hardest thing and the biggest responsibility of a person to do. People hate to make decisions. People, a lot of times in marriage, husbands usually don't want to make decisions, let their wives make decisions for them, because women are it's easier for women to make decisions because they don't think so much. So the more you think, the more you reason this way, against that way, against this way, against that way. You can't decide. Women are just there to go with their emotions. They just do whatever they want. So it's easier for them to make decisions. But men, it's hard for them to make decisions. The more powerful a person is, the bigger decisions they have to make. Right? Presidents, governors, they have to make big decisions. I mean, I don't know why people run for office. They have to make such humongous decisions. President Biden, whether he's making decisions or people in his cabinet are making decisions, these are monumental decisions, whether you want to send more tanks or fighter jets to Ukraine now and possibly invoke the wrath of Putin. I mean, these are huge decisions to make, with possible nuclear warfare being on the table. So that's, the ultimate decision, do you fire the nuclear bomb or not? I mean, that's the hardest decision to make in the world, because it could destroy the entire world. But let's get back to regular people over here. Regular people are faced with decisions all the time. As he says, even a worker pumping gas at a gas station decided he was going to smile at customers or give them the cold shoulder. Every time someone sits down to eat, even if he's eating kosher food, he needs to decide what he will eat, how he will eat, and as well as how much. These are hard decisions to make. They're not easy, right? Those people getting stuck up. You have to make a decision about everything. I don't know what he's getting. I don't know why they're giving examples. Everything in decision, everything in life, whether it's a mitzvah, the details are a mitzvah. The details, not doing avera. There's so many decisions and considerations have to be taken into account. Even to ask a shaila is a decision itself, right? It's a decision whether you want to ask a shaila or not. You don't have to ask a shaila about everything. Maybe if it's a halachic shaila, you're supposed to ask if you don't know, but it could be that if you don't know, right, and the Rav is not around, right, you don't have to go run to a Rav, right? That's not so clear that you have to run to Rav. So even asking a rabbi or asking advice from someone is your decision, because and whether you listen to that advice is also your decision. So, this is why we were created. We were created to excel in making decisions. Unfortunately, most people are horribly bad at making decisions. I mean, the worst thing you do is to not make a decision. If you make a decision, you make the wrong decision. At least you can do a tshuva, right? You can regret the decision you made, try to do better next time. But if you don't make a decision, you give it up, and you don't like making decisions, you stop thinking, you just do what you want to do, or let other people make decisions for you, you have completely failed at life. Sorry to tell you. But so and the point of this chapter, he's not saying anything major over it, even though he's saying the most major things. Um, he even says something very interesting here. He says, the list goes on. We must know the fact that a certain action allows for a man to make a real contribution based on his judgment doesn't mean the action is less important. On the contrary, the ability to make one's own decisions is often one of the greatest expressions of being created in the image of God. He actually has a thought to say that it's better to do things, right? If you're like robots, just do this, do that. No, that's what human beings are. They make decisions. That's the greatest. That is the only way of defining what a human being is, based on his decisions. If you want to know, the person is successful in life, see if he's a good decision maker. If he's a good decision maker, he's probably successful in life. If he's not a good decision maker, he probably won't be successful in life. Not always is true, but it usually is true. So the reason he's talking about here is because the bedroom is obviously a case. He says, even though, right, there are certain mitzvahs that you have, like Ona and things like that, certain amounts of time you have to be together during a week, let's say. And there's certain things that are usher to do in the bedroom. We'll get to that maybe in the next couple of chapters. What's mutter and what's usher, but a lot of the bedroom is discretionary. You can choose how often you want to do it. What do you want to do in the bedroom? So how you want to do it. So because it's such a gray area and it's not talked about a lot, so you have to know that. And he's going to talk in the next two chapters what a woman's rishus is, meaning what a woman really wants in the bedroom, what a man really wants in the bedroom. Because a lot of times people are not even they're not connected to themselves. If you don't know what you want, right, you can't ask your wife to help you achieve that in the bedroom. If the woman doesn't know what she wants, she can't help her husband. She can't even start to intimate to her husband that she wants something done. So first of all, like I've said, you have to know yourself, which is not easy to do. And then you have to communicate to the spouse that you want it done. And and people are very uncomfortable talking about these things. Unfortunately, the author doesn't talk about specifics. He doesn't talk about specifics, which I wish he would have, because the whole book about marital intimacy, he doesn't mention one example of something that's important in the bedroom. Places to kiss, times to hug. I don't know if he discussed how long you should have foreplay for, things like that. Different tricks to try to switch it up in the bedroom to make it exciting, different positions when you're together. Talk about these things. People need to know about these things. Unfortunately, especially in the frum world, he even says over here, he says, unfortunately, some people find it difficult to make their own decisions because they simply don't know how to do so. A person who can't make decisions is described as lacking das. Oh, here. Often, for the sake of simplicity, convenience, or confusion, people try to escape from the basic responsibility and treat intimacy as a static activity that requires precise robotic actions with exact rules. One of the Gedolim commented regarding this behavior, one who asks, quote unquote, one who asks questions in order to find exact definitions about this topic obviously doesn't understand intimacy. And a rabbi who answers such questions should not be trusted to answer any questions. There you have it. You can't be robotic in the bedroom. All right. Okay. So then he says at the end, he ends off the introduction. A good question. If intimacy rests on rishus, which isn't black and white and is very individual for each couple, what's the point of discussing it? After all, it depends on the good judgment of every individual. The answer is that we can learn about the general principles that will allow one to make proper judgment. Even if a person has das, meaning the ability to make decisions, he can still make big mistakes. He doesn't understand the underlying principles of intimacy. Although this topic is multifaceted, we will address the male and female perspectives of only two aspects, quality and quantity. All right? quality, he says, we learn that intimacy requires that both the husband and wife be prepared to unify on the physical, emotional, and spiritual levels. In order to achieve this, the husband must at least engage in verbal courting process, pious, before the union. Verbal, physical, foreplay. On the other extreme, the couple must avoid interaction that leads to the 9 children of rebellion, who are created by situations that will not result in the couple's unification, whether because they're only running it after physicality for the sake of pleasure, or because they're not in a state that will allow them to achieve unity, for example, if they are upset at each other. In between these two extremes is a huge amount of reshus, which requires a couple to use their own judgment to determine which activities will allow them to achieve their most complete unification. And number 2 is quantity. And the minimum frequency of the mitzvah is clearly defined in both Torah and rabbinic levels. However, anything above this can be included in the realm of reshus. Therefore, we will address the various factors that are often involved in deciding when to increase a couple's intimacy. For most people, if you ask a rabbi, you learn in Kollel, part of people who read this book probably, the rabbi will probably tell you twice a week, even though real Talmud Chacham is only once a week. But the Mishnah Berurah says twice a week. So the Stipler said many times, you should do it 3 or 4. People have problems with Shalom Bayis. Do it 3 or 4 times a week. I don't know if he's going to mention that Stipler, but he was very close with the Stipler. The one thing I'm going to mention, because it just occurred to me, reading most of this book already, is that the author, when he comes to conclusions and he's giving you advice about the bedroom and Shalom Bayis, either he brings a source from a Gemara, but those interpretations of the Gemara are based on what he heard from his Rebbeim, usually Gedolim, big Gedolim, Rav Shneur Kotler, the Stipler, Shlomo Zalman Auerbach. He was very close with all these big Rabbanim. What I find a little disturbing is that his advice is not based at all upon what his own wife told him. If you have a good relationship with your wife in the bedroom, you communicate very well with her. You have a good marriage, you communicate very well with her. She's going to tell you not just her preferences in the bedroom, but she'll tell you about women's preferences in general in the bedroom, because most women think the same. They think completely different than men. They have different bodies and different needs and different emotions than men. But the best gateway you have into understanding what women want in the bedroom and what the best intimacy is, because of course, half of intimacy is to fulfill your wife's needs and wants. The other half is to fulfill your needs and wants. So if he's not quoting it all from a woman, maybe he feels it's indiscreet to talk about it what his own wife said, but at least mention he heard from, females, because other women talk to other, they have friends and sisters and relatives that they talk to about these things. And if you can gain access to your wife's insight in this, and you have a good open relationship with your wife, she's oftentimes going to tell you, maybe not who she heard it from, but she's going to tell you a lot about, you have a good 5 to 10 women who are giving you information about, the proper way for the man to act in the bedroom to make the woman happy. I mean, why is that not quoted in this book? I mean, that's the most direct and legitimate way of getting, correct answers to these questions. That's what I find very disturbing about this book, is that he only the Gedolim, and it doesn't say that the Gedolim told them that their wives told them. It doesn't say that. So it's very disturbing to me. And the reason I'm able to I feel confident enough to give a lecture series on this book is because I have access to these things. And that's where I get my information from, to be honest with you, because I'm not a woman, but I have a great relation with my wife, and she has people that she talks to about intimate things, and she tells me some of these things. So she don't always tell me who the person is, but this is it should be talked about in a marriage, because if you have a good relationship with your wife, you want to know what makes her happy. You want to know what you can do to make her happy, and also you can learn what she can do to make you happy. There's a lot of information that women talk a lot. You should realize that women, also, you think men are interested in the bedroom. Women are more interested in the bedroom than men are. They just don't talk about it to you. But between themselves, they talk about it because women are comfortable opening up about this stuff. Men, you can't have a conversation with a man, even if it's your best friend, you're not going to talk about the bedroom with him. Men don't feel comfortable talking about the bedroom with anybody else, because men are always in competition. Women associate. Men compete, women associate. Women, especially if they're relatives or they're friends, they just talk about these things like we talk about sports, like men talk about sports, like who's better, MJ or LeBron. They're speaking about, different things in the bedroom, mikvah and things like that. I'm telling you, women, this is what they talk about. This is what they enjoy talking about. If you can get access to your wife's information about this, and she's willing to share her bevy of information that she's collected from data set from samples of people that she knows, you really can get an understanding of what's going on in the bedroom. So we'll leave off this chapter as he says it's about decision making in the bedroom, and he's going to talk specifically about a wife's rishus, what she would prefer in the bedroom, what a man would prefer in the bedroom, and how, based on other considerations, you take both of those into account and you make it work. Not just work, you make it successful in the bedroom. Of course, he's making a decision. The reason I think he's bringing decision making over here is because this is the hardest time to make a decision is in the bedroom, because you're dealing with people are very uncomfortable at the topic of sex, being together with a woman. They're uncomfortable, before they get in the bedroom. In the bedroom, men are very awkward about this. Women are also awkward about this, especially if you don't have a good relationship. It's a very awkward thing, And sometimes things might bother a spouse about the other spouse. They all want their mouths because they want to insult them. You know, someone smells or something like that, or someone does things the wrong way. They're not satisfied with what the other person is doing in the bedroom. Oftentimes they're not going to say anything, and it's going to go on for the entire lifetime very often. So the reason decision making is so hard over here is because, first of all, most people are not connected to what they need and want. They don't know themselves. And second of all, it's a very awkward situation, the whole thing, especially in the frum world where a boy and girl never meet or ever talk until they're married, really. They only date a couple times. They barely even know each other. And after the night of the wedding, they're in the bedroom together. So it's a very awkward situation. It's very hard to make decisions. And you have to also do things, not just that you want, but also that makes the wife happy. And the wife has to do things that makes the husband happy. So it's very hard to make decisions when you're lacking proper knowledge of the situation. You're awkward about the situation. You can't discuss it. And, you're just thrown into the situation right away without having, proper guidance, If you listen to my lecture series on this book, you'd have proper guidance. But if you don't have proper guidance, custom college classes often don't tell you very much. I went my custom classes, the teacher, he was a contemporary of mine. He just taught me the halachas. The only stuff that was a little intimate was told to me at Rosh Hashiva. And most of the stuff he told me, I'll be honest with you, is really way off. I mean, for normal people, it's way off. For example, he said, normally it's normal to be together. 2 hours is not considered a long time. Meaning including the foreplay and intercourse. 2 hours. That's normal. It's not considered long. But 2 hours average. I mean, most men are done after 5 minutes. I mean, they want to be done after 5 minutes, maybe even 2 minutes. So it's very important to understand this, that a lot of the things I heard from him are not true. I haven't found to be true. Maybe in his marriage it's true, but my marriage, I think I have a good marriage and a good relationship with my wife, especially in the bedroom. So I understand these things, and I'm true to myself. And that's why I'm going to talk about these things. We will talk about these things in greater detail. Hope you enjoyed tonight's lecture. See you in the next one.